So on that, I do want to thank you very much for enriching our experience and call upon the next the next panel to join us at the front. And I'll need my notes to introduce people who, I don't know. So there's David, that's great. Thank you. I'm going to introduce you very quickly. I'm going to ask each one of you to answer a question. My question is of Lilit Marcus, formerly of Juices. That's a very interesting way to introduce yourself. You know, like who you were. That's nice. So who are you now?
Well, it's probably Marcus, actually. The reason that I took Juicy on there is I left very recently, but I'm currently the editor-in-chief of a website called
The Guap. Okay.
But I needed Jew cred, you know?
Jew cred. Yeah, it'll be, it's a very challenging room for that, so I'm glad that you were able to pull that off. And Dr. Abba David Reisman, what else do you want us to know about you, aside from the fact that you're a doctorate in a white child? And you live in Brooklyn. Right. And you came from Alabama.
St. Louis.
Right.
They're doing really well for money.
Move the speakerphone over to the speakers. Excellent idea. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. All righty. And our third, and actually our first speaker is Russell Neiss, who has a nephew. No, Russell Neiss from Media Midrash.
That's where I moonlight.
Sorry?
That's where I moonlight, actually.
You moonlight?
Yeah, I work at the Rotterdam Day School as a librarian in digital art.
And you were born in France?
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay. So where were you born in France? You were born in Brooklyn?
Sorry?
You were born in Brooklyn?
I was born in Brooklyn.
But you don't talk like this.
That's a shame, isn't it? It's also good elocution lessons. Elocution lessons, excuse me.
All right, you'll explain this to some of them. So you're at the Rotterdam Day School in New York.
That's correct. On the Upper West Side.
With the reform, and you got a kippah on your head. It's pretty Christian of you. That's fantastic. All right, so this order is okay. Russell, David, Lilit, you put it. Anybody want to make a switch?
I don't mind.
Okay, Russell, you're on.
Okay. That's fine. So I just, as way of background before I sort of launch into presentation.
And you usually say, before I speak, I like to say it again. Go ahead.
I wear a number of different hats. On one hand, I sort of serve as a librarian at the Rotterdam Day School, which in many ways has this sort of vision of being this backward position where, you know, the hair and the back, for lack of a better term, very backwards, not necessarily up with the times and hip and with it. And the other end of that, I serve as a digital arts teacher there. I'm constantly engaging with the students and teaching them primarily to be producers of content. That is, to work with Photoshop, to work with audio editing applications, to create movies. It's sort of within the context of an art class primarily. So that's one hat that I wear. And then the other hat that I wear is part of this Jewish educational web startup called Media Midrash, which essentially is a YouTube for Jewish educators. And I'm the coder for that website. So on one hand, I sort of have this like old librarian distrust, I don't want to say distrust, but this old librarian sense of keeping what's new, and I should say I was trained as an archivist initially. So I'm very much in touch with, I want to keep that old stuff and make sure that old stuff is there and accessible in the format in which it always was and always is and should always be. And also with this other sort of techie side of me, which is like, this has to be accessible for everyone at any particular moment, immediately at that. I should also say I'm very much a Luddite. I don't like new technology in a lot of ways. I don't have, my cell phone is a very, very basic sort of, it does nothing. I've turned off texting on it. It's really a nothing little cell phone. And I say that as a way of introduction to sort of what I want to introduce and then the direction in which I want to take this, which I think is similar to what other people said already, but from a slightly different approach. So I'm going to start with that. What I want to show is, I think that's mine. Okay. What I want to show, this is, let me show it. This video speaks for itself, as I say.
Actually,
hold on. Yes, I know. It's an escape out for me. So sorry. Thank you. I appreciate that. I know. We can put it away.
You're right. Sorry.
My right. That was my left. So this is, I should say, this is it's an Apple iPad application that came out the day that the iPad came out. It was one of their featured applications. I just will start with that, I suppose. So, I show this for a couple of reasons. One, I actually think that this is what ebooks will look like in the future. I refuse to buy an ebook until they all look like this, and so they're not made in the CRM, so I can't actually ship them or use them. But this is, I think, the future of what books actually should look like. That is, they have the content, the textual-based content. They have interactive stuff that you can play with. They have video content that goes along with it. It's a real, true interactive experience. The other reason I use this particular one as an example is that this, before it was an iPad application, was a very successful book. Was a very successful book in print, with content, with very high-quality photographs. And the technology is really just a window dressing for all of this. Before it was even an iPad application, it was an interactive website. That is, I can click on any one of these, have the same information that's there on the iPad application, the same, I don't know if we have quick start here, but we have the same little, if it'll load, that's okay, so that's the same little funky spin function. All of the same functionality is still built in there, has already pre-existed. The only thing that they did is they took it and they pre-packed it and put it on this ridiculously expensive device that I'm not going to buy. But that being said, this is the future of the publishing industry. The reason I bring this up is basically, the reason I bring this up is primarily to say that oftentimes we talk about technology, we talk about it in revolutionary ways. We talk about it in ways that this is going to change everything. I think a lot of that is people struggling for funding dollars. And I think a lot of that is also because some people actually believe it. I don't. I actually look at these things as evolutionary as opposed to revolutionary. That is that what you can do is the content, if the content is out there, take the content and upgrade it to the next thing. We expect our teachers to upgrade their teaching habits, their teaching experience, to learn the newest pedagogy in terms of what is good teaching practice. And yet we don't necessarily do that in terms of with technology. We expect our teachers to use a blackboard. We don't necessarily expect them to use a smartboard yet, and part of that is because they're not prevalent, but part of that is also because people sometimes think that technology is something separate from education, when all it is a tool. It's just any other educational tool. It's a tool like a book. It's a tool like pencils. It's a tool. And I think that cuts base. On the one hand, what I think is really more necessary than anything else is to focus not so much on the stuff, but to focus on the people who are using this stuff and the people who might be developing the stuff. Harleen was talking earlier, she asked questions, what does this look like? What does this look like in 5 and 10 years? And my honest answer is I have no idea. And the truth of the matter is that if we talk about what it's going to look like or what it could look like because everyone else is doing all these interesting things and we need to now create an iPad application like this one, by the time the community gets around to it, they license the content or they create the new content for what reason, I don't know why, but by the time they create the new content again, there will be a new version of the technology using it sort of out of date and not there.